Guys, back out to Orlando live. Peter Schrager in that crowd somewhere with the Coach of the Year, Sean McVay.
I think it's going to be fun to play, and I think the defensive coordinator has more swag than all of them, so we'll be in good shape.
With Sue, there's always been that other element of the other things, the incidents on the field. What enabled you to get sort of to the point where you were comfortable with that?
I think when you just go back and you look at the body of work as a player, you get to know the person. Very impressive visit, just in terms of the way that he carries himself and the questions he asks. And I think we're all product of our experiences in our environment. And I think the one thing that you respect about Ndamukong is that he doesn't shy away from some of the things that have gone on in the past. But I think when you really look back at it, that's in his past. And I think he's learned from it. He's moved on, and that was something that we felt like organizationally was a good move for us to be able to acquire a player of his caliber. And I think just like anything else, you mature as you grow, you learn from your experiences, and that's exactly what he's done.
Sean, talking about an Ndamukong Suh and Talib and Peters, if hypothetically an Odell Beckham was to join the locker room, how are you so confident that you can handle all of these guys in one building? And if it's Odell, if it's another big personality, why is this the team that it can work?
I think you always want to be mindful, Peter, of the guys that you take on in your locker room. But I think at the same time, just like I was mentioning earlier, if these guys love football, we feel like there's a commonality that exists. We want to be intentional first and foremost about developing and building relationships with these guys. And, I think as long as we all have an understanding of what we're trying to get done, we're all working in the same direction. We feel like that, good things can happen. We got a lot of good core pieces in our locker room that we feel like are in place. And then when you supplement them with players like that, we're not afraid to try to bring as many good football players into our locker room as possible, as long as we feel like they fit. And I think that was the biggest thing when you look at the guys that we have acquired with Marcus, Aqib, and now Ndamukong. If something like that happens down the road, we want to make sure it's a fit for us. But certainly all these guys are great football players too, and those are something that surely makes you look like a better coach.
Again, hypothetically, because this is the story right now. This morning I woke up and people are talking about Beckham to the Rams. I know he's not a member of the team. I'm picturing this offense with already the offensive player there. Like, you can make this all work with all these guys who want to get fed, hypothetically, if they're to add another star on the offense.
As long as we have a lot of snaps a game, I think we can keep everybody happy if that's the case, Peter.
With that. And lastly from me, Ndamukong Suh comes in here. Aaron Donald, have there been conversations with Aaron on how this is going to work and maybe with his contract moving forward as well?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think when you look into something like this, Ndamukong and Aaron both have talked amongst each other, as this thing was going on. I think the amount of respect that we have really for a lot of the core players we have in place. You include a Michael Brockers, you talk to a LaMarcus Joyner when things like that go on. Even Marcus and Aqib are part of that. But I think we talk about the communication amongst our players. We want to be clear, open, and honest. And I think it's very important when you talk about a player like an Aaron Donald, hey, here comes Ndamukong. How do you feel about that? I think the mutual respect that exists between those two players was imperative and really paramount to be able to even pursue this in the first place. They felt good about it, and I think the one thing you feel so good about Aaron Donald is, he said, hey, the guy is a great football player. If he can help us win, let's get him on board, and that's really exactly what that entailed.
You wake up the next morning now with Suh on the roster. The feeling when you get out of bed, fired up, let's go, or is it, okay, now how are we going to make this work?
Fired up, let's go, man. Yeah. No, it's exciting though. I think, the one thing is that when you add players like we've had, here comes the expectations. But I think the one thing that our players, especially the guys that have been a part of kind of what we started to try to establish foundationally last year, is you got to earn it every single day. You wipe the slate clean, you recommit every single year. What we did last year, I think, gives us a confidence, but it doesn't earn you a single yard. It doesn't get you a sack. And I think our players have that mindset, and that's exactly the expectation we'll have starting up the offseason program April 16th.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Sean, the history of the league has been somewhat that bringing in a bunch of veteran players all, at once hasn't necessarily worked. Like the 2011 Eagles were billing themselves as the dream team, and that didn't work. Did you study that at all? Is there any concern on your part, even though these are really good players you're bringing in, that it's hard to get them to mesh right away?
Yeah, that's something that you absolutely look into. And I think when you just look at, each league presents a new opportunity to learn in different situations that kind of recreate history, if you will. And, for us, what we look at is each individual piece or each individual player that we wanted to add. We felt like the main reason is these are guys that love football, they're about the right stuff, and they're obviously very talented football players. And we felt like if they came in, they'll fit with what we're trying to accomplish. And They fit within the framework of the scheme, especially, when you talk about those three defensive players with the way that we want to operate defensively. We felt like it was going to be a good fit, and, all of it's on paper right now, but I think you do feel really good about adding two corners that really, I don't think it really matters what system you're playing. They're going to fit. Their production kind of speaks for itself, and then Ndamukong's the same way, but it's about continuing to figure out how we can be connected as a team, how we can really commit to each other and be in the best version of ourselves ultimately to be a great football team. And that's what football entails. And, it's something that we felt like was going to help us improve and get better. And, we're excited to see how that thing meshes and molds together as the offseason program starts up here in a couple weeks.
Great stuff from Coach of the Year, Sean McVay there, adding 3 defensive weapons.